I'm Steph Lee, the founder of Host Agency Reviews, and with me today is Mary Stein. What
Hello.
is your what is your title, Mary?
Hmm. Master of horror content and puppies on blogs.
Yeah, I get confused, but many of
Awesome.
you know Mary. Does a ton of work and heads up our research reports and our survey. And so what we wanted to do, well, first of all, this was supposed to be played during host week, but then we had some technical glitches and had to axe it. So we're so glad you joined us. If you missed host week, we will put a link in the comments for you to watch host week because host week was so much fun. And not only do we have it on YouTube for you, we also uploaded the audio onto our podcast channel with Travel Agent Chatter if you want to listen to it as well. But today's webinar is going to be dealing with data driven growth. What we're doing is we're looking at the info from the research reports that we publish every year from our surveys and giving you the data you need to actually give you tangible ways that you can benchmark your agency and grow your agency and see the trends that are out there. So, a few things to note for those of you that aren't familiar with the surveys, it happens every year right when your taxes are due. So, like April 15th, we start pushing the survey out after that. But then what we do is after we get all the data in, we start crunching it and dicing it and slicing it in all sorts of different ways. And what we found is there's a really big difference between different segments of the industry. The travel advisor community is not homogenous. So we break our reports into three or four different ones. Typically, it's three, but it's hosted advisors, independent advisors, which means they have their own accreditation. They're not using their host agencies, and employee advisors. And if we have enough, there's been some years where we've been able to publish franchise reports as well, but that's hit or miss. So don't count on that one.
So this is where I'm gonna give you my desperate plea to take the survey, and I will give this desperate plea at the end of the webinar too. But if you go to horror.news/survey, you can sign up for survey reminders, and then you'll
Or
know
use the
right away.
QR code that we just popped
Oh,
up on the
yeah, you can
screen.
QR code. I mean, QR code is having a great revival
Yeah.
post-COVID, so good job, QR code.
And we really actually shouldn't even have to plead for you to take the survey because there's a huge advantage for you to take
Yeah,
it, and that is that you get the reports for free. So anyone that takes our survey and fills it out with information that's helpful to us, we want to say thank you because this helps make the travel advisor community and better, stronger, and help people understand it better. The data is used in all sorts of different ways. ASTA's used the data before when they're on the Hill. So by you participating, it helps make us all more successful, and we are happy to give you the report for free. So that's a huge advantage of taking it, and it only takes like, depending on what you're filling out, but 10 minutes probably to fill
yeah,
it out. So
yeah.
let's see. Some other things is we the reason we started doing this is the hosted advisor segment. We talked about this during my host week keynote, but it is the fastest growing segment. It is now the largest segment of travel advisors out there. It's about 75% of travel advisors are now hosted. And so it's a huge market. The travel advisor community is their sales are up huge amounts the past couple of years, and so everybody, whether you're a travel advisor, a supplier, a host agency, a consortia, an association, everybody should be wanting to know the data about this particular channel. And that's kind of our goal with the hosted advisor report. And then what we do too, these are not your regular reports that are 10 pages long. Mary, can you pull up the table of contents from our hosted advisor
Yes,
reports?
yes.
So you'll see as Mary's pulling this up, we slice and dice the data in a ton of different ways. So
Just gonna
let me
tap
see.
here.
Here we
So
go.
it's yeah. So this is the table of contents for the hosted, advisor report, and it's almost like each report has, like, 7 or 8 reports within one report on that
Mhm.
segment. So, yeah, Steph, I don't know if you wanna tell folks what they're seeing here.
Yeah, well, so like some things to point out. So, new advisors are very different from experienced advisors. So, we break down within here, there's a whole segment on the new advisors, like how old are they? Like, how much do you make your first couple years? Because if we include new hosted advisors, because that's the way people are coming into the industry, I think it's something like 95% of advisors that come in go the hosted route. If we put that in terms of the income that they're making with all the experienced advisors, it artificially deflates everything. So we break it out with the new hosted advisor, and that helps gives us a feel for who's coming into the industry. Is it a lot younger people? Have they been in the industry before? What kind of money they're making through the years? What are they focusing on? Do they love cruises or are they going into luxury? So that's one of the things, and then we talk about the income trends, and there's so many factors that come into play when it comes to an advisor's income, so we look at it by all different ways. So if you're a you've had 3 years of experience within the industry and you're selling luxury travel, you can look at, "Oh, like, how much should I expect to make by my niche?" Um, or if you're part-time versus full-time, how much can you expect to make? And then one of the other areas we're really passionate about is bringing a lot of transparency and sharing data about fees. So, how many advisors are charging for fees? What kind of fees are they charging? And then what's the breakdown of those fees? What products are they charging? How much are they charging? So we go into all of that data, and then the last kind of portion of it is more about demographics. We talk about how people are satisfied or not satisfied with their careers. If they wish they could have a raise, how much do they think they deserve of a raise? And then kind of the operations. So the operations is kind of what tech products are they using, like CRMs, itinerary builders? What are the bookings and sales? Like, what are they focused on? And one of the other things that we'll talk about in depth later is the agency scaling. So for the people that are growing with adding ICs or employees, what does that look like and how does that affect things? And then for the hosted report specifically, we talk about host agency relationships like the commission splits, how many people are moving host agencies, and the reasons for switching. So whether you're an advisor, a host agency, a supplier, there's information in here aplenty for everyone. Let's
Yes.
see. Yeah. So Mary, I think we can kind of jump in. Like our goal is to give you again these tangible ways that you can use the data from your reports to grow your business and be successful. So Mary, do you want to jump into the next portion?
I do, I do. So thanks, Steph, for kind of offering that large framework. And one of the things that profiling different advisor segments enables us to do is look at the issues that are relevant to that segment in particular. So, when we're looking at the hosted advisors, we're able to look at that new segment and look at like host agency relationships. And then when we're looking at the independent advisors, we're looking at consortia relationships and we're looking at agency size and taking on ICs and employees. So we will put in a link to those table of contents so you can kind of see how each advisor segment differs and what we cover. But one of my goals today with this webinar is just to go over how you can make this data actionable and applicable for your business because it's piles and piles of numbers. And I'm the senior content manager is my official title, not putter upper of puppies on a blog. And as a content writer person, I'm not always like naturally oriented toward numbers. And so for me personally, it's helpful to have a concrete way that you can look at this data and apply it to your own business. And maybe as a travel advisor, you didn't get into travel to analyze data. So that's why we're here to break that down a little bit. So I want to go over some more specific ways on how advisors in particular can use this data for their business. Um, because the report does offer a look at like the large scale industry standards. But what's most important to me personally is how we can home in on that data for you to personalize it to your own needs and goals for your agency. So I'm going to start with just some of like 5 big picture ways that you can kind of employ this data and direct it specifically to your business. So, one of the first ways is going to be looking at information on startup investment. And now, this is mostly for like the new hosted advisors, but it's going to give you the information, answer questions like how much can I expect to spend or need to budget on starting an agency? So, that's one thing. A second thing that this report is gonna help you do, all the reports, is gonna help you gauge, just kind of gauge your expectations when it comes to income and sales for your agency. So it's going to help you answer questions like, well, what can I expect for income? Not only when you're starting out, if you're a new advisor, but what can you expect in terms of income growth at every point of your experience in your travel advisor career? So regardless of your experience level, there's going to be information in there, and regardless of how many hours you work, there's going to be information in there to help you compare your income and just kind of let you know if you're hitting or exceeding like the industry standards or kind of keeping on par with your own personal goal. And that's going to apply to sales too. So we have a lot of information on like the average sales overall, but not only just overall sales, we look at sales per booking by niche and product. So when you're developing your goals, you this report can help you answer how many bookings am I going to need to make in order to hit this goal or expect to make, right? So it's really going to help you be strategic with your agency.
Mary, can we,
Yeah.
because I think it would be helpful if, as we're talking about, like, say, one of the things is the startup investment people
Mhm.
can expect, if we can give some kind of numbers behind that. And I also tossed up
Yeah.
the QR code. So this is going to take you to the landing page for the hosted travel advisor report, where it'll give you some more information. We have like a free mini report that you can take a look at. So if people are interested in that, but for in terms of startup trends,
Mhm.
what are people looking like? What's the normal number? Because this is not just helpful for new advisors, but this is helpful for host agencies or suppliers, anyone that's talking with advisors to say, this is how much you should expect that you're going to spend.
Yes, I'm so glad that you said that because, the report is gonna help you make decisions or manage expectations in terms of startup budget, but it's also going to help you do some competitive analysis in terms of finding a host that's good for you, so that's or switching to a host that's better for you. So it's helpful on the advisor side because one of the things in terms of startup, beyond the cost, is you can look at the most common commission splits for host agencies. And what we found in 2023 is that the most common commission split for new advisors was 70%. And the most common commission split for experienced advisors was 80%. But then we also look at it with different, 3 different lenses. Like we have the most common, we show the median, which, the median is slightly different than the most common. So we look at it in all those different ways. So as an advisor, you can see like, oh, okay, this is kind of what I need expect. And you don't
Well,
have
for like instance, with the startup costs, it's
yes, with costs and with commission
with
splits.
like $1,000 is the most common amount that people reported
Yes, yes.
charging. Like, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so same, like, when it comes to, like, the commission splits, it's you have that information, but then also with the startup cost too, you can see that information. So, like, the most common startup cost in 2023 was $1,000, but the average startup cost is closer to $3,000. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna understand what others are investing and know where you fall on that spectrum, and you're gonna be able to gauge what you can expect to budget and what you can expect to spend, depending on, whether or not you're investing in a huge education program, selling this specific type of travel, looking for higher cost access to things. You'll kind of know what range you fall within so you can make really informed decisions, but then you can also ask really informed questions to host agencies about like I think there's probably a technical financial term for this, but you can make informed questions to host agencies about like the investment to value ratio for you. And it can help you, it aggregates all that information on startup costs and commissions to help you make those choices. So you don't have to go on the site and look at 300 different profiles, to see what the industry standard is.
Mhm.
And, we also offer tips in there too. Like, one of the fun facts I discovered about our 2023 report when it came to startup costs is that only 21% of advisors were investing $5,000 or more. So that's just like kind of an interesting way to frame that question of startup and the fun stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so that's like the really tangible ways that advisors can kind of help navigate those decisions with the host agency and those like startup cost expectations. But then also on the flip side, for those who are with a host agency, to kind of see what the trends for advisors are as well, so they can know that their product offerings are competitive.
Mhm.
The second thing that we're mentioning is that it can help you with your income and sales projections and goals. So I want to give a huge shout out for Steph's business plan here because
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you.
it's, I do we have a QR code for that? I don't
We
think we
don't.
do. But you know what? It's har.news/bizplan. And we'll post that in the comments. You'll find it. But the report goes so well with the travel agency business plan, whether you're just starting or whether you're further down the line and just kind of assessing some of your goal plannings and income projections for the next XYZ number of years. Um, but one of the things the data can help you do is accurately evaluate what income you can expect to earn based on your time investment, based on your experience, and based on your niche. So you can like see those factors. And one of the benefits of the report that Stephanie was mentioning before is that we take a very prismatic look, and the data really homes in on all these different like segments within segments within segments. So you can get a
Mhm.
very realistic picture for your own goal planning. And then it also can look at like what growth you can expect over time. So one of the fun facts that I, you know, sort of found out from our 2023 report is that the average growth over the different experience segments in 2023 was 24% for full-time advisors and 17% for part-time advisors. And I just thought that was kind of interesting because you can sit down with your business plan and be like, well, what would that look like then if I'm making, $40,000 in my third year? Like, how would this track for year number 9 or 11 if I keep going? And how does that fit with my own goals and needs and stuff like that? And then the report can also give you the information to understand what steps you need to take to make some of your sales and income goals a reality. So you can reverse engineer some of this information. So this survey can help you answer like what sales do I want to hit and what sales can I expect to hit over time? And then you can look at like how many sales or how many bookings you need to make to hit a certain sales amount. So it just offers you a lot of different ways to look at the data and apply it to your own agencies to see if you're on track with those income and sales projections. Like, so for example, if you're looking at our hosted advisor report, maybe your goal is to make a half a million in sales. What our survey is going to do is help you estimate that a luxury advisor will have to make 77 annual sales to hit that mark, and a destination specialist is going to need to make over 100 sales to hit that mark. And so it's going to help you navigate a lot of those decisions in terms of, well, if I want to, increase my bottom line, how are the different ways can I go about doing it? And if it's not sales, like what else is it?
And just a note on that one. So the first one we talked about was the startup fees for new advisors. That's one place that's really helpful. The report brings to the table. The other one is the income and sales projections. And it's a great way to not only um, figure out and project, but also if you're someone that's been in the business X amount of years and you're at it full time and you're seeing that your salary is or your income is much lower or much higher than what the average is at
Mhm.
that time, that's either you're going to be like, what am I doing wrong that my income is so much lower? Or like, I've really got a unique business model here that's really working. My income is so much higher than other advisors at this level. Because for those of you that are new tuning in, we say this all over the site, but it's the reports show this fairly clearly and have for the last like 8 years we've been doing them, is that it takes time. Those people start off part-time, and that's because income is slow to ramp up, but your first through years are really where your income is there's kind of an exponential growth, but it starts out very small. And so having those numbers can make it really helpful for you as you're going, or if you decide to take that leap and go full time from the very beginning, you can see like what the income differential is and what you could expect to be taking in your first year.
Yes, exactly. It helps, like, manage those expectations and create some of those projections,
Hmm.
but yeah, all the data, and sometimes the data just kind of affirms what we feel like we intuitively know, and it's kind of affirming to know, like, yes, it does take this time to invest in our business before we're gonna get to a point where, maybe the income levels are where we want them to be.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so, in addition to the startup budgeting and decisions for finding a host, in addition to the income and sales projection, another big topic that our report addresses are fees. And so we're finding that we're getting really close to the halfway mark when it comes to charging fees for hosted advisors. For independently accredited advisors, it's much higher. But you can use the data in our fee section to help you establish a new fee structure or or evaluate a current one. And so, maybe you're that destination specialist and you're looking at the volume of bookings and you want to do the same number of bookings as the luxury advisor to hit your sales goals, right? And so you might reconsider your goal planning to tweak your fees rather than, trying to hustle and make more bookings. Maybe you like the clients that you have already, and don't need anymore. Um, so what our fee section of the report is going to do is help you identify competitive fee rates by product type and by niche. And you know what? I'm going to share my screen here because I have the fee chart to give an example. Um, yeah, so we look at about, oh, I don't know, 10 or 15 different types of products. We look at how normal, quote unquote, normal it is to charge a fee for those products among those who do charge fees. And then we look at the median fees per booking and per person. And we also look at the median fee IQ range. Now, I'm not going to get like too into nitty-gritty of statistical terms, but IQ range just kind of means like the range that you can really expect with it, kind of removing the massive outliers. So it's a really good picture of what folks are charging for these different products. So it can help you predict income that you can earn based on fees, right? So you can look at your booking volume target and understand more precisely how these fees can increase your bottom line. And then you can determine if you want to increase your fees or like adjust your growth goals for that. Yeah, so that is kind of the skinny on fees here. I'm gonna close my screen. Um, yeah. So we have the sales projections, the startup budgeting, the fees, and then one of the four things that the report can help advisors with is make decisions surrounding operations and technology. And that's a little bit more straightforward. But it gives an opportunity for advisors to see what's out there in terms of CRMs, website builders, itinerary builders, and what advisors are using. And this is going to change from year to year because there's new players coming in all the time. But it's a helpful tool to see what's out there and what they can use for their own business. And then, we have a lot of resources on the site kind of um, that kind of continue on that conversation as well on how to choose some of those best resources for you. And it's
Mhm.
also really helpful, wouldn't you say, stuff from the supplier side of things too?
Yeah, well, I think like any of the tech companies
Yeah.
or anyone that plays in that space, of course, this is very valuable data to have what market share the different companies have. But, for an advisor too, like websites are a really big thing. And you would think that 100% of travel advisors have websites. And that is not the case. I don't have the exact numbers up, but it's something like 76 or something. 76% of advisors have a website. But not only does the report tell you that, but it also tells you, what website are they using? Are they using a lot of host agencies or consortia will offer a website program to their advisors, and there's pros and cons to that because the pro is it's already pre-built for you. They may adjust the specials for you. You just choose which suppliers you want. But, they might have a booking engine that's on there. And we talk about like how many advisors have booking engines on their site, what percent, and it's actually a very small percent that actually get bookings from there. And then we ask, like, okay, so you said, yes, I got a booking on there, well, did you get 1 booking during the year? And is that worth the front page above the fold space on your site? Um, or are you getting 15 bookings? And the numbers are in there are showing that it's very low. The percentage, first of all, is very low that get bookings from their online booking engine. And then the percent that do get a booking, it's usually like between 1 and 5% or like 1 in 5 bookings per year. So it can help you like make decisions like that, and be like, all right. Well, a lot of people are doing the do it yourself method for the website builder, which gives you more flexibility and creativity. It also is a lot more work because you're the one behind the scenes. You don't have as many constraints, which is great, but can also be a downfall as well, for those that have tried to make their own website.
Do Stephanie,
Yeah.
I'm raising my hand on your behalf.
So great to have some constraints sometimes, but I mean, so the data within there, can be used by so many different people in so many different ways. And one of the last things, like the fifth thing I think we want to talk about, is for people that are looking to grow their agencies, what are some of the triggers they can pull that will make that growth start happening? And one of the big ones that we see is advise or agencies that take on ICs or employees, and maybe you can look this up while I'm chatting a
Yeah.
little bit more about it to give like an exact number on the income growth, but huge amount of growth. They're the ones that are bringing up the average. So we talk about things as well with people that are wanting to bring on ICs or employees. And the other thing I should mention, I forgot in the beginning, is with our employee report, and I'm just going to put the link up to our employee report really quick. But with
Mhm.
the employee report, this is really great if you're wanting to bring on employees because it's going to give you what the average salary is. Is that a sales position or is it not a sales position? Um, what kind of compensation structures? Is it commission only? Is that what's,
Yeah.
being competitive out there? Or is it salary plus commission? Or is it flat salary? What type of benefits are people offering and how many people offer benefits? How much of it is flex work at home? So it can give you a really good feel
Mhm.
on how to be competitive. Because right now, hiring an employee as a travel agency is really difficult. There's not as much talent out there as the amount of
Yeah.
people that are wanting to hire. And so you need to be competitive and know what's going on.
Yeah, and just to backpedal a little bit, Steph, I found that number at the end of the hosted report. We have a key takeaways section, and it's showing that advisors who have either ICs and or employees are earning 1.5 times more income, and
Hmm.
it's a huge, huge difference. I mean, it's $47,000 annually plus compared to over $70,000 a year. So that makes a big difference.
Hmm.
Income potential.
Yeah, so for anyone that's looking to kind of grow and are like, this I see an employee method sounds like it might work for me because that money doesn't come free. It is more work. Like you're
Yeah.
having to manage employees and handling ICs. There's risks with becoming a host agency. So be aware of that. But
Mhm.
we talk about things like when a advisor is most likely to use a host agency. So, for instance, the first 3 years is when someone is um, most likely to switch host agencies. So, knowing that either as a host agency or an agency, just to know like that's not abnormal. It's a small percent. It's like 7% of advisors end up switching host agencies, but it happens in those early years. And so you can rest pretty if you know the majority of your advisors have been with you for 20 years, that they're likely not going to switch. We talk about the pain points, like where the advisors, sorry, the dogs are going crazy. There's a cat outside. Uh,
I love data.
they data. Um, so where the pain points are, like when people are leaving, why are they leaving their host agencies? And it comes down to for a lot of people, the support that's going in there. So knowing all of this can help you build a really robust host agency program or hosted program, or knowing like again how much to pay employees, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and then one of the other neat things is knowing the market really well. Host agencies are and hosted advisors are what we eat, sleep, and breathe. So we know all this information so well. But for a host agency, I've seen ASTA use data from a report, and I've seen
Mhm.
host agencies, ASTA affiliated advisors earned like 15% more than non-affiliated advisors, or a host agency could say the average commission split for a new advisor is 70%. We offer a 75% commission split for advisors, or our average income for our advisors
Mhm.
is $50,000 in their first 3 years versus the average of the industry is X. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use it for marketing your agency if this is the way you're looking to grow and bring in more income. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, from the hosting perspective, just a treasure trove of information. It's like a one-stop shop of competitive intelligence where you can look at all the information on the commission splits, the startup investments, the trends for switching hosts. And, as I was going through the report, I was just thinking about how much time it can save you on, generating some of that intel rather than like, I mean, I hate to drive you away from the host agency review site, but rather than going on our site and looking at hundreds of profiles, it's like all that information is right there. And you have your fingers on the pulse of what advisors are going to come to expect from you.
Mhm. That's a great idea. So, okay, let me just recap. So we talked about the 5 areas that you as an advisor can use this data and the reports to understand your business, make smarter decisions. The first is the startup costs, understanding like how much when you're budgeting, how much you should expect to make, and what factors might bring up those startup costs. For instance, if you're with a franchise and you have no sales, that is really what skews the average up to $3,000, like Mary said. But a lot of advisors, it's $1,000 is the most common
Mhm.
answer. Second thing we talked about is you can use it for your income. Well, it's actually kind of like two things. So I'll do two and 2.5. One is your income, to understand your income growth through the years and what you can expect, and then your sales growth. So understanding um, kind of the sales projections in terms of what niche you're in, what because I think we also go over like what the average booking, the amount of bookings that an advisor does
Mm,
during a year, and the average sales they do during a year.
yes, yeah, average booking, average sales by niche, average sales per booking by niche and product.
Yeah, and this is
Yeah.
great too info for any business development managers out there and suppliers, um, to be able to go to anyone higher up, if you're looking for more, say, marketing dollars for the hosted advisor channel to talk about, "Listen, every one of these on average does a half." I think it's just under, it's like $470,000 or something in sales,
Yeah.
um, and so this is worth it for us, and so we've got the income and sales projections are 2 and 2.5. And then we've got the fees, which fees are not for everybody, but it's something that people should be considering if you haven't already. And actually, what we've seen, I think when we started out, Mary, with the reports, oh, I don't know the numbers off the
I
top
wanna
of my
say
head.
it's, like,
It was like
hovering around 30% or something like that, maybe
it was really low, and now for
low.
hosted advisors, it's 49%. For independently accredited advisors, it's much higher. I think it's like 65% or
Yes.
something charge fees. And so, knowing those fee charging practices, and for those of you that are newer and listening in on this, it can give you the confidence you need to say, this is what the going rate is. Because before these reports came out, no one really knew what anyone charged and no one knew how many people were charging fees. They would say, "Oh, advisors should charge fees," but it was like you didn't really run across it that often. It wasn't something people talked about, and now it's a big conversation within the industry. So this can be really helpful for you in that aspects. Um, Understanding the operations, like what kind of technology people are using to run their businesses, and and then lastly, if you're wanting to scale your company and make that jump up, because there, if you're a one person show, there is a cap on how much you're going to make as an advisor. You have to bring on other people at some point in order to scale. And so it talks on like the independent contractor route and the employee route and can give you some ideas on how much money that is going to bring up your income and if you want to make that decision or not. So, um, let's see, Mary, I know we're kind of wrapping up.
Yes, we
Um,
are wrapping up.
and yeah, if you have questions, please drop them in the comments. We pre-recorded this because Mary had something else going on, but I'm in the comments. You've probably actually already seen me. Uh, but ask your questions in there and I'm happy to answer them. But while we're doing that, maybe we can do remind people about our upcoming survey.
We do have a survey upcoming, and the reason why we have such an amazing breadth of data is because we have so much industry support for the survey on the advisor level and on the organizational level as well. So, I am asking you to sign up for survey reminders at har.news/survey. There's a QR code. I'm still adjusting my technology deficient brain to the QR code on the screen. You can snap it, just plug in your email, and I will send you a reminder as soon as the survey comes out. And you will
Mhm.
get a copy, a free report copy that, aligns with your
Yeah.
assignment. So,
Yeah, and one of the things too, so give people a timeline. We start the surveys in April, run them for a couple months. Over the summer, we start diving into the data. We try to push out the reports in the fall, all of them. Depending on what's coming up, sometimes it takes a little longer. But again, we publish the hosted advisor report, the independently accredited advisor report, and then the employee
mhm,
report. And then I'm going to let me just, because one thing for people to know is we do have a bundle as well where you can save like 15% if you buy the hosted and independent. And
mhm,
the use case for this could be helpful if you're somebody that is hosted right now, thinking of going independent on your own to kind of see if there's any differences. The independently accredited report does have more income. they do earn higher incomes, but there's a couple reasons behind that that I just want to go over so people understand them. One is they're more likely to work full time because they have way more experience. They have 15 years. Is it the median or average? I forget.
Oh,
Um,
that's median.
it's the 15 years median, 15 years of experience, versus 5 or 6, I think, for hosted. So huge difference.
Yeah.
So that brings up their thing or their income. It's also because they bring on independent and employees at a higher level than the hosted advisors do. And then they're also way more likely to work full time than their hosted counterparts. And I think there might be one more factor, but that those are the reasons that the indie has a higher average income than the hosted. Remember that 95% of new advisors come in through the hosted route. And so it's an amazing place because that's the lifeblood of our industry, and brings in all sorts of new blood all the time for us, but it also does kind of deflate the income numbers even though we consider new advisors to be 0, 1, and 2 years of experience and experienced 3 plus years, but even between years 3 and 5, there still is, like, a jump that happens in the income, and so that jump kind of deflates things a little bit. So that's the big picture on that. But let's see. So I'm posting up this hosted an advisor. I'm going to pop up the employee report if anyone's interested in learning more about them. And then we've got our independently accredited report and the hosted report. And we would love to hear, like I said, any questions you have. I'll be answering them in the comments. And Mary, do you have anything else to say before
You
we
know,
wrap up?
the only thing I wanna add is if you think of a question later, feel free to just drop me an email at mary@hostagencyreviews.com. And so if you have a question about this webinar, about the upcoming survey, or if you're someone who might wanna partner in the report, pushing it out to your membership so you can get some of this great data for yourself too, just let me know, and I'm happy to have that conversation.
Yeah, yeah. If you partner with us and you get it out to a certain number of advisors, we give you a report as well, for free. So we'd love to partner with anyone, or if you belong to a host agency or a consortium and you'd love them to get more involved, we would love to get more involved with them as well.
It is
So
a community effort.
yeah. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Hopefully this was helpful. And again, drop Mary any questions with any specific, if you're looking for specific numbers or ideas on things. We're always happy to help out. And hopefully you'll be able to join us for the survey this year to get some great data as well as a free report.
Thanks all. We'll chat soon.
Bye.